Yes, we're watching the top 8 live now. And we'll be seeing the players now walk up to our stage soon enough. We can see players chanting in the background.
Yeah, the top 8 announcement happening.
Yeah, so everybody's really excited to see exactly who comes in and everyone else can chant for them. Celebrating the prizes they already have and the prizes they might have soon. And we see Gorla Ricardo, Przybylski Maksymilian, Kowalczuk Wojciech, Van der Beek Lawrence, Mercurio Enrico, Titov Egor. Now, number 7. Michael Kundergraber, number 7. And number 8, we see Alberto Franco Bianchi. So, huge congrats to our top 8 again. Ricardo Gorla, Maksymilian Przybylski, Wojciech Kowalczuk, Lorenz van der Beek, Enrico Mercurio, Egor Titov, Michael Kundergraber and Alberto Franco Bianchi.
Hi everybody, welcome back. We are here in Bologna, me and Harry. We are ready for trying to cast the top 8, and we can now watch at the bracket of the top 8. So we can see that we have some different deck in the top 8 because we have at first we have an Amulet Titan, a Rakdos Scam, 2 Rakdos Scam, 2 Golgari, 1 Mono Black Control, 1 Izzet Murktide, and no, 3 Rakdos Scam.
Yeah. What's most important about these deck lists, we've seen a load of unjustified ring complaints. That'll get some interaction in the Twitch chat. We have 13 copies in this top 8. I added up all the rings from all the deck lists. We have 4 of these decks playing the ring, and the rest of them, they're not. We've got Orcish Bowmaster to try and tackle the ring, and we also just have people just going under the ring. So it's going to be interesting. Our main feature match is going to be Golgari Yawgmoth versus Rakdos Scam. This is a matchup that we've seen many times today. I think it is definitely a tough matchup for the Yawgmoth player. And that's because we're going to be seeing multiple Furies and Griefs and discard spells and Dothy Voidwalker to exile things. It's going to be a tough match, but it can go any way because actually this Golgari Yawgmoth player, or known as Zerk on Magic Online, very renounced Golgari Yawgmoth player, managed to navigate the matchup perfectly to win the 13th round to put them in a win-in to then eventually get into the top 8. So we've seen this player beat Rakdos Scam already. Can we navigate it again to win? We'll have to see.
They are waiting for us to start. If one of them will end faster, then we will have another matchup coming on the screen, but we will see.
Yeah. Now, the way we're running this event, as we don't have all the time in the world, all the quarterfinals are going to be playing at the same time. Same with the semifinals, and then obviously finals on its own. Me and Ariana will be doing the quarterfinals and the finals, so we'll be here with you for most of the top 8.
So now we know why they are waiting, because everybody else are waiting for the deck list, because in this phase of the tournament, they can see each other deck list. So they need a paper copy, so they consult during this. So we are back on the brackets and just waiting for that. As we can say, we are going to see in first table, as we saw, Golgari against Rakdos, and then on the second we have choose Golgari against Mono Black Control. So there are a lot of magic that still have to going on. Again, the players that have already reached top 8 right now, they have, of course, qualified for Lille. That will be in Pioneer, but then they have some prizes, some USD, some ticks, some boxes, and also a fly voucher. So they can, it's easier for them to go to Lille and be really prepared for that.
Yeah. And predictions for this top 8, I think both matches we're about to watch. Yawgmoth versus Rakdos Scam. I definitely got to give it to Scam. So much removal and disruption coming out of that deck. I think it's going to be really hard for Yawgmoth. But I think the more interesting matchup is Yawgmoth versus Mono Black Control, our 4th and 5th seed in the bottom left. And that's because Mono Black Control is hoping to play against creature decks. Now, having a lot of removal spells, Yawgmoth can try to work around it because the Mono Black Control deck's taking a way slower game plan compared to Rakdos Elementals. Like, for example, Grist is an awkward card for Mono Black Control. So I think while Golgari Yawgmoth is still not favored in that matchup for our other quarterfinals, it's way closer than the Rakdos Scam matchup for Yawgmoth.
Another thing that we can try to tell you, because now deck lists are open, you cannot find until the end of this tournament on MTG Melee, but we can check at them and we can try to see which decks have no rings and no new cards. I think new cards, every deck has at least 1 new cards in the top 8.
Yes. Yep, we've got 4 decks with the 1 ring. All our Scam decks have the Orcish Bowmaster, and I guess the Murktide deck, there's 1 copy of Izzet Murktide. I haven't looked at that list. We have Stern Scolding. That's new, I believe. Just a couple sideboard cards, but a very stock list for the Murktide. Yeah, we still can't... Well, it's not us as casters to provide you with the deck list. That's down to Legacy's social media team. So whenever they post that on Legacy's Twitter, that's when you'll get it. So we can only go off information that they tell us. But we're going to be doing our opening sevens now because both players were analyzing the deck lists. It's gonna be a tough one, but this can still go either way. Because don't forget, both these players are very good, and we've seen Yawgmoth beat Rakdos today once.
And nice gesture for both of them. Good luck, have fun. Always funny to see. Always good to see. First of all, land delightful halfling for Golgari player, and Ragavan for Rakdos Elementals. Let's see what else. Chat, let us know for who are you rooting for?
That is a turn 1 Ragavan.
Yeah. Let's see, and the young wolf, and of course another land. So
County Garden making an 0-1 plant.
yep, and passing.
Young Wolf being an amazing blocker here for Ragavan.
Yeah, of course.
Undying.
Can easily block and then came
Yeah.
back on the board with a +1/+1 on it.
And this is exactly what you want to see as Yawgmoth, right?
Yeah.
Rakdos Scam is a deck that we think of turn 1 Grief plus Feigned Death, whereas here they've just done Ragavan Go. I would assume that with 2 mana up or representing things like Fatal Push or Terminate, because when it's open deck list, you're going to keep a hand that you know can interact with the game plan your opponent's trying to execute. But with 4 mana here, with the Delighted Halfling, we're just passing. And now with an Orcish Bowmaster pinging the Young Wolf, it's going to Undying back to the battlefield. What I'm trying to get into, we actually have Court of Calling up here. Court of Calling for 3, or we could have something like an Orcish Bowmaster from Yawgmoth itself. There's many instant speed things that we can do for the Yawgmoth player to definitely try and make the Rakdos Scam player's life a bit awkward.
Attacking with Ragavan, blocking with the Delighted.
But it
And
seems to be no cord, or at least maybe holding it back for to actually fetch Yawgmoth itself, but not doing anything with mana on turn 3. That is quite surprising. Could be potentially playing around something like a Fury in hand. That would be reasonable.
meanwhile, I'm trying to let you know what the new cards are doing. And fetching, shuffling. For this part of the event, during the top 8, they will have no time limits. So they can just play, think about everything. They have some free time. And the Yawgmoth is resolving. So yeah, we are updating also the deck list names because we need to. Oh,
That's a Terminate. So we're going to have to do some things in response. We're going to try and put a -1/-1 counter on the Orcish Bowmaster. But yeah, for those who don't appreciate the incorrect deck names, that's actually down to you.
Yeah,
When you
exactly.
register to the tournament, please put your deck list correctly named into MGG Melee. Because surprisingly,
Exactly.
I went to many deck lists thinking, oh look, someone's playing 8-rack, and then randomly it's
yeah.
4-color control, or it's burn, or something. It didn't look like 8-rack to me. So please register the correct name, and then we won't have this problem. Because we're only going off the information that the players give us.
Exactly. So let's see if the damage on the -1/-1 of the Orcish will resolve or not.
Shout out to FF Freak in the chat, Melee staff, supporter of the stream. Appreciate your efforts in correcting the incorrect deck list names.
Thank you.
That is going to be a feign or some sort of scam. I think it's a feign death. It's in a different language. That's going to be on the Orcish Bowmaster, so we actually get it to come back to the battlefield to trigger again.
Ooh. So let's see what happens. There is still 1 damage.
So
and
it's kind of just free to do this. I mean, the board will be empty.
Yeah.
But I don't mind this for Yawgmoth. The board's empty. You're not too worried because you're drawing a load of cards, and now you're just hoping that the opponent can't refill the board. But with Rakdos Scam getting up to 4 mana, that's going to look like things like Seasoned Pyromancer, Hardcast Grief. So it's definitely still very rough for the Scam player here. Or sorry, for the Yawgmoth player here.
Attacking with the army, 2 damages. This was a free attack, so of course.
So for those wondering, we did feign death the Orcish Bowmaster, but it was killed in response. And then the triggers of the Bowmaster were missed from all the Yawgmoth draw triggers.
And we have a second Yawgmoth with the Delighted down on the battlefield.
Unless I'm missing something. I think there was just one Bowmaster trigger missed, because everything was done in response and stuff. Okay, that's going to be a Fury pitching a Terminate here. Going to try and deal 4 damage to this Yawgmoth. We're going to use the Halfling. Yep. Try and kill the Orc army.
We also have to say thank you to the players because they make everything very clear, very easy for us to understand.
Ooh, we're going to scam the Fury. That's going to come back tapped.
And pass. So now it's up to Golgari player. And 2 mana.
Hapatra. And a Gilded Goose. So nothing too impactful for the Yawgmoth player.
Yeah.
And now it's in the Scam player's court to really start ramping up the pressure. I mean, already just a 3/3 double strike. A big attacker. But just passing, because you can't let that Hapatra hit you. Because of the wording of Hapatra, if we bring that up on the screen, when it deals combat damage...
You may put a -1/-1 counter on a target creature.
Exactly.
Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with that touch.
So, because we don't have a removal spell in the Scam player's hand, you just have to keep holding down the fort.
Yeah.
And with the Gilded Goose making food every turn, because we can pay 2 mana and tap that to make a food, with all this excess mana, because we don't have spells in hand, we can start gaining a lot of life. This Gilded Goose is actually nice technology alongside the One Ring, because if the One Ring's losing you life, and you have some ways to gain life back.
I know that is a very well-known card, but I just want to put on the screen so for new players. Another Bowmaster. Move 1 creature, amassing 1.
So now we can attack with the Fury. having multiple ways to block the Hepatra, but no fourth land.
Oh,
Things are still developing for both of the players. We have Mana Screw versus Mana Flood. So there's going to be a
The
fatal
bottom
push on
push.
the Goose.
so now there is no way for him to go and keep up with lifelink, gaining life.
And I think that push is a must, because if we top deck Yawgmoth, then we can start doing some amazing things with Hepatra. But then I would assume there's also a removal spell for Hepatra itself, and that's why we use the push. So I would assume Rakdos Scam here has multiple removal spells, and we're just not forced to use them because we can still attack with our 3/3.
And right now, Golgari player is down to 9 life points. So, but he has a bunch of mana, and our Rakdos player is just with 4 land. Another land, and pass. Attacking with Fury. Going on.
Oh,
Nice.
Chord of Calling. X is 4, so this is Screaming Yawgmoth. And it resolves. Okay. So now because Dryad Arbor is blocking the Fury, we get value from the Arbor because when we sacrifice it to the Yawgmoth, we have still blocked the Fury, so we're not taking damage. What's important, though, is the Orcish Bowmaster is still in play. So this is going to be amassing Orc 1 and dealing 1 damage to target of our choice. So we're going to try and get rid of that Bowmaster now with the Yawgmoth. What's also important is if this -1/-1 counter goes on the Bowmaster, the Hepatra will trigger and make us a snake.
Yeah. So you can start to make some board. And it's resolving, yeah. So
No
now we
removal
will
spell. Really?
find the snake with that touch.
That is huge that there is no removal spell for either Hepatra or Yawgmoth. There could potentially be a Fury here post-combat. But with a tap Blackleaf Cliffs and a passing of the turn, Yawgmoth is going to get to untap here. That's an Orcish Bowmaster.
Another one. So now we can create a +1, create an Orc army, ping 1 damage, destroy the other army. And now the situation is very good for this Golgari player.
So we've got, it's just over. What a game. That turned around so fast with just that Chord of Calling off the top of the deck and no removal spell for Scam. Potentially killing that Gilded Goose was just a bit too greedy there. But when you're trying to put pressure on with Fury, it's a tough decision to make in the moment.
And now we are on sideboarding for both of them. So we can try to guess what they want to side in and side out. Do you have any ideas?
So let's take a look at the lists. Now we can actually discuss exact numbers.
Yep.
So against Scam, cards specifically that I would want. There's not a lot. Copies of Fatal Push. We have 1 Fatal Push, 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Scavenging Ooze, 1 Soul Guide Lantern. These are really the only cards you would potentially want against Scam. There are 2 copies of Force of Vigor and 1 Haywire Might. I feel like you don't want Force of Vigor for Blood Moon. I could see an argument for Haywire Might for Blood Moon, but again, it's hard to board in for Blood Moon when your deck is full of Mana Dorks. But we've seen Blood Moon get Yawgmoth today because the Scam player just kills all the Mana Dorks and then you're left with a load of mountains. So it's down to the player's experience and choice. For Rakdos Scam, though, we have a lot of stuff that can be good. We've got copies of Kolaghan's Command. We've got Turak if we want to make them discard cards. We've got Engineered Explosives. 1 Mana Scam player, 1 Mana Scam player. 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 1 Mana Scam player Cast into the Fire. That's also decent. We know that there's copies of the One Ring, so they can exile the One Ring and deal 1 damage to Ignoble Hierarchs and creatures that we need to get rid of. So lots of things that Rakdos Scam gets. Not too many cards. 4 or 5 cards at most, I believe, from this Yawgmoth player.
So not only Rakdos is in a better spot in this matchup before sideboarding, but then even after sideboarding, he has so many cards that can bring in, especially for this exact matchup. We are going to game 2. And, well, let's see if they decide to keep or mull. If they... Do you think that one of them can have no problem with a hard mulligan or something like that, or it could be difficult for both of them?
I think the Yawgmoth player's logic is my opponent will most likely have a Grief or a Thoughtseize early on in the game, so there's no point in me specifically mulliganing for cards. I would expect the Yawgmoth player to keep lands and almost anything, because in this matchup, you need to hit your land drops, and you need to be blessed by the top of your deck. It's quite simple. It's the classic Thoughtseize style matchup. Just it's way more extreme, because if you get double grief turn 1 when you've mulliganed to 6 to look for a specific card, well, they'll just take that specific card because it'll be good against them.
Yep.
So you need to be keeping 7 most of the time against Scam, no matter what, really, because you got to be expecting that grief. As well as Yawgmoth is a deck full of 1-drops, so it's very easy to trade with a Ragavan if the Rakdos Scam player doesn't have the Scam and just a turn 1 Ragavan. So, Rakdos Scam here, definitely looking for just removal. If you can keep the board as empty as possible with that sad face of their 7, then you'll be doing fine.
I really like this thing. Because you can see they are enjoying themselves, even if, yeah, they are playing for a lot of stuff, a lot of prizes, but they are still in a positive mood, so
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Can we get a sad face in the chat? Sad face in the chat for this
Sad
opening
face in the
7.
chat. Let's see. Now we have Titov on the play. Both of them are keeping.
No Scam, no Ragavan.
Nope.
An interesting start, and we have a Delighted Halfling on the other side of the board. So now this Yawgmoth player, if we could see a turn 2 Grist the Hunger Tide, things could turn immensely, but now with Dothy Voidwalker, can be interesting. Exile in the graveyard, making sure that none of these Undying creatures are going to come back.
And
Twitch chat makes a good point. Ragavan is most likely sideboarded out, of course. Against the Undying creature deck, definitely not the strongest.
yeah.
But what's surprising is how slow of a hand we've kept. It must be full of Furies, right? That would be definitely a good hand that you can keep. As we use a Grist here to kill that Dothy Voidwalker, turn 2.
And pass.
Now are we going to see a Fury scammed? Another Dothy.
Another Dothy.
And we're playing
Land.
our scam as a land.
Going up to 2 with Grist. So creating a creating a 1/1 black and green insect.
Yep. Just checking here. Grist does not care if the card goes to the graveyard or not. So we're still going to make that insect.
Yeah. And attacking on the Grist. Grist is out. 4th land for Titov. And the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So now we also have... Wait, there is an interaction and an Orcish Bowmaster immediate on...
Ping in the face.
Yeah,
This is going to be good because if we want to discard cards to this Fable of the Mirror Breaker to filter our hand, well, the Orcish Bowmaster will be triggering.
exactly.
One thing as well that is underappreciated is how Orcish Bowmaster puts 2 bodies for 2 mana, which is perfect for Court of Calling. We've seen so many massive Court of Callings today, and it's honestly hands down a big thanks to Orcish Bowmaster, just helping you get those creatures on the battlefield, tackling all the heavy removal spells in the modern format right now, and also just really punishing people from drawing extra cards. It's been a very good card today.
I think for what we have so far till now, this one is the most relevant of this new set.
That's a Yawgmoth. We don't have a way to activate Revolt, so we can't Fatal Push that Yawgmoth. I actually don't think there's any way we can kill this Yawgmoth. But obviously passing of the turn, untapping. We now can cast the Grist the Hunger Tide with the Douthie Voidwalker. If you really wanted to go all in to kill the Yawgmoth. But I would assume that we have a Fury, because the opening hand was so slow from turns 1 to 3. There must be something powerful that's been sandbagged.
And also Fury with the flipping of the Mirror Breaker could be very relevant and very good. Making a treasure, attacking with the Goblin Shaman.
It's going to be a Terminate on the Yawgmoth. Thinking about what we want to do in response here, we can draw a lot of cards. There's also a thought that the opponent might have an Orcish Bowmaster in response, but there is not one. That counter goes on the Shaman.
Meanwhile, they have updated us, and this one is the last one games that is played, the last matchup. Everybody else has already ended.
We have so many options with Douthie Voidwalker. I wouldn't even be surprised if we just cast Grist here, potentially. Because it's just... It's a good way to have an answer to Yawgmoth. But it's down to what... Oh.
Ooh.
Okay, now we have perfect information as well.
Yeah.
That is a lot of cards. So the Cutthroat is obviously annoying if a Yawgmoth is drawn, but I think individually Hepatra is very good too. If your hand is full of removal, I saw a Cast and Fire in the hand. You could...
Yeah, you can try.
I think you want to go for the Hepatra, because if we pull up Cutthroat, it's when another creature you control dies. So if you keep Douthie Voidwalker on the table, the Cutthroat does not trigger. So I don't think you have to worry about it.
So yeah, you have to choose a Patra. Just keeping a record of everything, sign everything that he needs to do, and...
Oh, lovely play. So we're scamming Douthie Voidwalker to be able to cast Grist the Hunger Tide. Because it dies when you sacrifice the Voidwalker, it'll actually come back to the battlefield to stop any more cards going to the graveyard still, because it's just back on the battlefield. Now we can start plussing our Grist, making some 1/1s, and setting up for the ability to sacrifice one of these 1/1s to kill maybe a top-decked Yawgmoth, or just any important creature. And now with the Fable flipping next turn, We have a lot of
Yeah.
value for this game player. We definitely need more than just a Yawgmoth off the top for our Yawgmoth player.
Have a water foot. And yeah, right now it's very difficult for him come back from this position. Not impossible though, but difficult.
Okay, load up the board.
Okay.
Triple one drop.
2 young wolf, 1 delighted halfling.
We need a Yawgmoth off the top for there to be a chance to win the game.
And Fable of the Mirror Breaker is flipping. And
Oh, that is a
Fury.
Fury off the top of the deck. There's a lot of 1/1s on the board right
Yeah,
now.
so now we can choose. Bowmaster, Young Wolf, Halfling.
And because we had that Doughty Voidwalker, still that Young Wolf is not coming back.
This was huge.
Oh, using that insect from Grist to be sacrificed to kill that wall of roots, and now the board is empty. We can start hitting with the Douthie. It's a 4-3, because we do have the counter from the scam card. And now this game is essentially over. We're just going through the motions here for Yawgmoth.
And yeah, we are going to game 3.
And that's how the matchup's meant to go out, you know?
Mhm.
Every turn, Rakdos Scam, the deck full of removal spells, is just going to keep wiping the board and taking the most important card out of your hand. And disrupting the graveyard is a huge one as well.
Exactly.
One thing that makes this matchup, it's the one thing that makes this matchup so difficult for Yawgmoth is how many different angles the Rakdos Scam player can attack you from.
Yeah.
We are going to get a game 3 though, and we have seen Zerk, Golgari Yawgmoth player, beat Rakdos Scam before today. So why don't we leave it down to Twitch chat? Who do you think was going to win game 3? Can you give us a 1 for Golgari Yawgmoth and a 2 for Rakdos Scam? Who do you think you're supporting? Or who do you think is going to win? Sorry, not support or win. Who do you want to cheer for? Lots of 2s. Some 1s. I love farming interaction.
Yeah.
I have to say, while our players are looking at the deck list, sideboarding, shuffling up, I have to let you know this stream is free to watch. Legacy provide it for free. We love coming back every time we host an event. Legacy hosts an event. They will host a stream for free for you. And the only thing they ask from you is to click that follow button, because clicking that follow button fuels Legacy to improve the stream, keep funneling money into this to keep the content free for you, and to keep these top 8 staked matches live on Twitch. So please don't forget to click that follow button. It really does help. And it's free for you.
Yeah. Now we are ready for the draw, and let's see if they decide to keep them all again. Now we will see Golgari back again on the play. So maybe he can try to set up his plan faster. And well, we saw him doing a good plan in first game. So let's see. Does the Yawgmoth play the ring? Yep.
For those wondering, this is the quarterfinals.
Yeah, exactly.
We should be able to watch 2 quarterfinals matches.
Nope, actually, because
Nope.
everybody else have already ended.
Oh, this is the last
This is the
quarterfinals.
last
Oh,
quarterfinal,
my
yes.
mistake. This is the last game of the quarterfinals. Game 3, Golgari Yawgmoth versus Rakdos Scam.
Exactly.
After this match, we will be watching the semis, but it won't be with us. It will be with Piotr and Philip.
And now we had a happy face from Rakdos side. Both of them have decided to keep. Young Wolf. Turn 1 for Wojciech. And we have a grief,
Uh-oh.
first of all. Endurance. Wall of root. Ah.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Is this how it goes?
This is what you were saying before.
We
This is
yeah,
what Rakdos want to do.
and this is the problem for Yawgmoth. We have to fully rely on the top of our deck. We do have 4 lands, which is very important, because all we're looking to do is get Yawgmoth down as soon as possible with creatures on the board. So if we can draw creatures, and we can find the Yawgmoth, then we will be fine.
Second land, make a plant. Let's see. Attacking with the grief. So now they are both at 17. But in this situation, and probably the Rakdos is in a very better spot.
Ooh. That's a Silex. So big draw step.
And now attacking with the Young Wolf. Fetching.
For those wondering, the Silex on the board, it's essentially a Ratchet Bomb, just a little bit better.
Fetching a land. And let's see if Golgari's player will be able to find a solution to this situation or not. And essentially, what does he need? We need removals. What else? A lot of things.
Okay, Grist the Hunger Tide. That's going to sacrifice the plant token as they are tapped out. The grief is guaranteed to go away. And now we could see a comeback. A Scammed Fury here would be good.
Tough Seed. That's one thing that's the endurance. So.
But we need.
Yeah.
Are we going to miss our 3rd land drop? What's Scam thinking about?
Seems like it. Or
we're
maybe
not,
just
we're
have,
not.
yeah.
But we don't have a Douthie Voidwalker or an Orcish Bowmaster, because that Blood Crypt was played tapped. So we can rule out some 2-drops here. So that definitely will build some confidence for the Yawgmoth player. And now if we can find a Yawgmoth off the top or a One Ring, we could pull ahead. It's all down to the top of the Yawgmoth player's deck.
And pass.
For those wondering about the artifact, we can pull it up on screen again.
Yeah.
It's the Silex. It's essentially a Ratchet Bomb, but if you have 10 counters on it, you can sacrifice it to deal 10 damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in the bottom right screen right there, if you want to read the card for yourself.
Yep. It's just one of the things that this card do. And attacking with the Young Wolf and the Insect.
But now, the Silex is going to tick up to 3, and we're going to be able to kill the Grist if we'd like.
Exactly.
That's a Gilded Goose.
So now you make a food. I saw a Skura token on the top of the screen. And pass. So another counter on the Silex. Up to 3. Now you can decide if you want to use it for remove, reef or not. 5th land.
Oh, it's going to be a Fury, isn't it? Instantly sacking both fetch lands.
1 and 2.
So what are we going to destroy with Fury? We can either sack the Silex to destroy the Grist and kill a lot of creatures,
Yeah.
or we could kill the Grist and 1 insect and have a massive blocker. I would assume you want to, against the empty hand, you want to just remove all the chances of a top deck Yawgmoth.
Mm.
And you don't want them to have a lot of creatures for Court of Calling either. So I like this. And then I would assume that you want to get rid of the Grist too. Again, gotta remove all the chances of a top deck Core, top deck Yawgmoth. I assume we're gonna fetch for the Dryad Arbor here, because we do want Yawgmoth off the top of the deck. As a way to actually get back in this. But it is definitely a rough day here if you're trying to beat this game player. Nope, just gonna go
Decided
for a
for a
basic
forest.
forest instead.
Yep. Shuffling up again. Go on. Wojciech still have, yeah, exactly, 1 food token and 1 young wolf on the battlefield. So using the token, using the food, gaining some life, and
Big draw. That's a Grist.
another Grist.
That's going to be able to destroy the Fury and bring back the Young Wolf as a 2/2.
Ooh,
What,
nice top
what
there.
a draw. Okay. That is also an out. That's an Engineered Explosives on 1. That's a Seasoned Pyromancer. Going to draw us 2 cards.
Let's see.
Okay,
Fucked up
big
everything.
draw again. That's, I think it was a County Garden? It was definitely a land.
Another insect, and
It
yeah.
was a County Garden. All the blockers in the world. Trying to keep this Grist on the table, hoping they don't have a Fury. Can we stay alive? Can we keep ourselves in this?
And
Every
try-
top deck
yeah.
matters. That's a
Doughty.
Doughty Voidwalker.
Yeah, he has to try to survive as long as he can and try to find out something out of the top deck. It's a huge defense, this one.
Okay. Engineered Explosives is going to get rid of that Young Wolf, going into exile with the counter because of the Doughty. Seasoned Pyromancer hitting at that Grist. We're going to put that plant token in the way. Big top deck.
Ooh.
I think it was another Grist. I didn't quite get to see it, though.
There's a lot of thinking. And
It's the
no,
One
the One
Ring!
Ring!
Oh my gosh, what a top deck. Getting protection from everything and going to draw so many cards for this Yawgmoth
Wow.
player. It is almost exactly what we wanted.
And
That was a Bowmaster off the top! Bowmaster! Oh my gosh, we're actually pulling back into this.
this
What?
deck is blessing him.
Oh my gosh.
This was amazing. And also, he has 17 life points, so he can free use the ring without any backfire.
Wow. Oh, this is... Okay.
And
Using Grist to destroy the Doughty.
he's thinking about, yeah, of course, Doughty. But
Oh,
1 mana,
scam in response. Making
No.
sure that Doughty stays around. Potentially backfiring on our Yawgmoth player.
yeah,
That's another
another
Doughty.
one. And
Seasoned Pyromancer,
another
we've got the
one.
Bowmaster! We've got the Bowmaster! Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to get a trigger from the Bowmaster, and we're going to get 2 more triggers from the Bowmaster.
So now it's starting to amass. So there are 3 triggers of the Bowmaster.
Yes, and
Am I
now
correct?
we're going to
Yeah.
be able to draw 3 cards as the Yawgmoth player, and we've got our Scam player completely tapped out.
And you can decide on which target for the 3 damages. Let's see what is decided to targeting. The Doughty.
So we're going 2 at Douthie, 1 at the face.
Yeah. Down to 6. And with 3 creature. And now we have an Orc army that is a 3/3
Yes.
and keep going up.
Okay.
And pass turn.
Losing
one-
1 life to that 1 ring. We're going to get a draw step and 2 more cards from the 1 ring. So 3 cards
Okay.
here. Again, needs stuff off the top of the deck.
Let's see. Sorting out the mana. I'm wondering right now. This game is amazing. So much going and back. It's amazing.
So there's an interesting dynamic now because the Rakdos Scam player is at 6 life.
Yeah.
So if we can try and force damage through as well, that is going to be a big problem. It's all down to what these 3 cards are. They are completely unknown, so we're going to have to just wait and see what they want to do with them.
And 1 land. He's really thinking about it.
This Overgrown Tube is going in slow motion. Going to shock that in, lose
Yep.
2 life.
And then just checking something with triggers and text. And the Yawgmoth.
That is... Wow. Okay. Yawgmoth into Cord? No? Yes. Cord?
Yep.
We can't do that. We need to pay 3 green. That's what I was thinking. Judge has stepped in. We do have the head judge watching.
It's okay.
Whenever you think that there are problems in the future match area and nothing's
Yeah.
done, don't forget that head judge is literally staring at the board. So if nothing is being said, that means the head judge allows it. But like there, we need to tap the triple green. Head judge initially jumps in.
Exactly.
That's a Hepatra, though.
So now we have also Napatra, we have a Yawgmoth, an army, an Orcish Bowmaster. It's a lot of stuff.
And with 14 life to play with, the ring on 2,
Exactly.
we can definitely do a lot here. So now every -1/-1 counter, Hepatra puts a counter,
And
Hepatra
create
makes a
snake.
1/1 snake. We'll get that up on the card viewer right now so you can see what actually is happening. Hepatra here in the bottom right, whenever a creature an opponent controls gets a -1/-1 counter on it, make a 1/1 snake. So what we're doing here is we're making a snake, sacrificing that snake to put another counter, and keep going.
Again. The snake keeping going and come back from the board. And it can be used for keep up with that.
And you can do it at any point. So there's no point in, let's say, doing it 5 times here when you have all your mana tapped. So instead, we can just say go. If Rakdos Scam has a removal spell, then we can determine how many cards we want to draw. But that's a hard cast Fury. So here, because Fury is an Enter the Battlefield trigger, we can potentially just, well, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 power and toughness on the board. You could, in theory, draw 7, put 7 counters, and then still live through the 1 ring life loss. But it's down to this Yawgmoth player and whatever they think suits best.
Another one. And coming back. Getting rid of the Fury.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah, just saying, like, I've got the 1 ring, I've got a load of cards in hand, probably have another Yawgmoth already, so,
Yeah.
you know, you don't need to do anything until your turn.
Also now he will draw 3 cards if he decides to use the ring.
And we need to deal 6 damage to face this turn if we want to win.
Exactly.
Could be difficult here. We have 4 damage, but there's 2 blockers.
Well, first of all, 2 mana and the root. Then 4 mana and another Yawgmoth. And 2 mana.
Oh, that's lethal and an extension of the hand.
Wow.
Golgari Yawgmoth stealing the match in the quarterfinals here to advance on to the semifinals. What an
Wow.
insane match. That was crazy.
This one was so fun to watch. And now, guys, we are going directly to semifinal. As we can see from the graphics, if they decide to...
Yeah.
No, they've changed the demand. And we can go directly to the semifinals because everybody else have already ended. So Philip and Canister will be here again for you to commenting. I don't know if we have time for doing both the semifinal or not. We will find out very soon enough.
Yeah, and look at our top 4. That was a sick graphic. Wow.
Yeah, it's
So
amazing.
You're going to see your top 4 players very soon. We're going to take a short break now while we pass over to
Exactly.
Philip and Canister.
Welcome back to LMS Bologna. Now we will be watching the semi-finals of the event. 4 players left. 2
Yes.
ring decks left. And they are not playing against each other. And we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
Coming into the event, I don't think you'd assume that the 2 most winningest ring decks would be Yawgmoth and Yawgmoth.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise, honestly. And, well, I'm not deeply surprised by who is piloting at least one of those decks. We have watched a beautiful quarterfinal by Kowalczuk. That was pretty impressive.
That was pretty impressive indeed. Normally we would probably expect like Tron with the 1 ring, or maybe Koffers, or maybe Omnath, Jeskai Breach. But actually, it is double Yawgmoth now in the top 4, wielding the 1 ring. We also have Murktide and Scam, and we'll have
Yes.
Yawgmoth versus Murk and Yawgmoth versus Scam matchup. So maybe Yawgmoth mirror match in the finals?
We'll see. For now, we're going to be following the match between Franco Bianchi on Ragdos Scam versus Van der Beek Lawrence on Yawgmoth.
Yep.
That's going to be the semi-final we're going to be following.
So we watched Scam versus Yawgmoth just a moment ago, and Yawgmoth emerged victorious. Do you think it can happen again right now in semis?
Oh, certainly. Why not, right? We've seen that happen once. Why couldn't it happen once again? And we see players already off to the races. The lighted halfling in play. Van der Beek going first, thanks to being a higher seed after the Swiss portion of the tournament.
So how relevant is it to have the lighted halfling specifically against Scam? Is it relevant?
It's very nice, especially given that the new card, Orcish Bowmasters, is present in a lot of those Scam decks. And in fact, Franco Bianchi is playing 4 copies of Orcish Bowmasters. So having 1 toughness mana dogs would be kind of terrifying. And on top of that, Fury and similar cards are pretty important. So the second point of toughness is really strong, cannot be understated.
And now we see Forest, Grist, main deck Endurance, another halfling, and Yawgmoth. What would you be taking here? I assume Endurance?
Yeah, if you want to cast Undying Malice on your Grief, then for sure you need to lead by taking Endurance, and then the next choice is Yawgmoth, which is like the namesake and the strongest card in the deck. Although there is a strong argument for taking care of Grist instead of
Disrupt the curve a little bit?
Yeah. Instead of letting Van der Beek just deploy Grist very efficiently right now. Probably minus sacrifice the mana dork to trade off with the Grist.
So whose position do you like more now?
Well, I like the player with the Planeswalker active.
Yep, that's it.
Ooh, no second land, just a monkey. And the monkey matches up really badly against insect tokens.
Yeah, it does. Because if it was dashy, you'd at least clean up the battlefield and, proceed on an empty battlefield. But now, this monkey is as good as dead.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to get back, although a Pitch Fury might help. Oh,
Okay,
and here
okay.
it comes. Here it goes.
And you
Let's
can...
see if we have a Undying Malice effect to just make it super strong.
Right, so you can split damage a few ways. You can go 1, 2, 1. Oh, okay.
Oh, we do. All right.
Okay,
No
so
second land needed.
we just clean up everything. We keep our 4/4 double striker. Attack with Ragavan. Actually, the second land might just not be needed for the rest of the game.
Yes. You asked me whose position do I like more, and now I have to side with Franco.
Yeah, so this keep,
That
maybe
a-
it was
that-
actually
that
pretty
a-
decent.
Yeah, that was a huge blowout, a huge change in the game. He just needed to draw a red card, it seemed.
Yeah, and it does explain the keep fully. So we've got essentially 10 power attacking every turn now. So Golgari Yawgmoth on the back foot. Prosperous Innkeeper, well, not very effective here. You can maybe trade with Ragavan there. But 8 damage is still coming through. So now, attacking for 10. Block Ragavan, let's trade, okay. 8 damage coming through down to 10. So Fury is not lethal next turn.
It is not, but Yawgmoth essentially operates on a kind of a lower life total than most decks, because you need your life to to combo and to draw cards with both your Yawgmoth and the One Ring, so you cannot really afford to go down to 2, or at least it diminishes the power of your deck greatly.
Yeah, and Fury is basically the name of the game here, cleaning up the battlefield and applying immense pressure. Right now, it's a lethal attack. So maybe Chord of Calling, maybe Orcish Bowmasters, maybe Orcish Bowmasters and Chord of Calling. God for 2.
Yeah, that was just one
Geist?
card, so...
Maybe like Geist block.
Well, you probably still get Orcish Bowmasters, right? Shoot down Ragavan,
Champ Fury.
Champ Fury with the army, perhaps.
Okay.
Then you can technically top deck a Grist, maybe.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then you're still, yeah, and you're still left at 8. So he's healthy-ish. Franco has nothing, then would have nothing else. Unless there is something played post-combat. There is no instant speed removal to force the attack through.
Alright, what did we draw?
Pass.
Pass.
So if you're just jumping with Bowmaster, it doesn't bode well for the Yawgmoth player. And this might be over in literally like 5 minutes.
Maybe another Bowmaster, maybe an Endurance, if it's present in the main deck. Let me check. It probably...
Let's see. Fetching, so maybe...
Yeah, there's 2 Endurances, but...
No 2-drop was played, so I assume like a 3-drop coming now, like Season Pyromancer, maybe main like Blood Moon to cut off like, you know, Yawgmoth draws, Strangleroot Guys, Chump draws.
It makes sense to, you know, it's also like plays out really well for Franco here, where he attacks with Fury, forces a Chump block from the Orcish Bowmasters, and afterwards, with no Bowmasters in play anymore, you get to
Yes.
not trigger the Bowmasters, right? You don't get punished with the pings.
Yeah, and we're
that is
scooping,
it.
scooping immediately. That was fast.
Yeah, that double Fury just devastating. Early in the game, just reclaiming all the board position that Van made for himself was just utterly demolished and ground to dust in a single moment.
And it's kind of this very powerful combination of both, as you said, like this kind of mass removal effect, but also the immense pressure it's putting on the opponent. Attacking
Yes.
for 8 every single turn. It also is difficult to block profitably, right? Because the first attack is first strike. So you have to have a 5 toughness creature, maybe some kind of weird quadruple, quintuple block.
It's really hard to block a 4/4 double striker.
Yeah, and now we see them sideboarding, and they're also looking at the opposing deck lists, because the top 8 is indeed open deck lists. So they know now what's happening. Let me open the deck list so I can tell you what we might expect. I saw Shieldred slid into the main deck possibly now.
Shieldred the Apocalypse is a pretty okay card in the matchup. Having 5 toughness means that she does not die to Fury, which is very, very relevant. She also offers you a little bit of life gain that is often necessary against red-black. On top of that, we see cards like maybe Scavenging Ooze, maybe extra Endurances, Fatal Push and Pile-On if you're interested in playing removal spells on Lawrence's Van der Beek's side.
It might be a bit similar to when we talked about Jeskai Breach being a bit more of a third deck with the ring as the top end.
It's very possible, very possible. You're still gonna keep Yawgmoths,
Yeah.
and you're still gonna keep like plenty of creatures, and you're gonna keep Mana Dorks, but you will just kind of reduce the amounts here and there. But the main game plan is still going to be, you know, play Yawgmoth, draw cards. Just sometimes you're gonna try to win the game with just card advantage instead of winning it with the literal combo, as that might be hard to assemble and not necessary.
Although Scam is also sideboarding there, and do you think that Scam will also go more mid-rangey with, let's say, you know, Turak, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you know, Shieldred of their own, or maybe not, and focus on the aggressive game plan?
Oh yeah, Franco has a Shieldred available, so both players have a single Shieldred available on their sideboards. Interesting. They probably both gonna bring that card in, I can imagine. On top of that, I'm not entirely sure what Franco's default strategy is gonna be there. He has a pair of Nile spell bombs, which could be useful against the Undying creatures if he deems Toffee Voidwalker to be insufficient as interaction versus those. A pair of Fables of the Mirror Breaker, he wants to go a little bit more grindy. Although, as we've seen in game 1, he was more than happy to just jam those Furies with Undying Malice and demolish the board and take the initiative and attack.
Like, the more interactive spells you've got, the higher the likelihood your opening hand is just a bunch of lands and interactive spells.
Yes.
So you're not progressing your own plan and just kind of trying to play into whatever Golgari Yawgmoth is going to present to you. But this might just misalign, right? You keep a hand with, let's say, Fatal Push and Terminates, and you see Young Wolf into Strangleroot guys, right? And it's like out of grid.
Then it
It's
can
like,
feel really silly. Yeah, that hand does not match up against that at all. So you have to keep a healthy balance of interactive cards and just proactive threats that can take over the game, deal damage, pressure the opponent.
yeah, and we'll find out soon enough. It's a best of 3 match. All of those in the top 8 are best of 3s. The other semifinals is Golgari Yawgmoth as well versus Murktide. And the coverage is brought to you by myself, Skura, also known as Islands in Front, and Canister. So players are all looking at the opening hand. Van der Beek sending it immediately back.
Mulliganing on the play, pretty punishing. It is always kind of risky to mulligan against the Rakdos deck because it's really hard to go down on cards and then getting hit by a Grief with Undying Malice on turn 1, which is always a possibility. So we see both players going to mulligan, going to a lower amount of cards. So there is probably something that plays into Rakdos's strengths if I have to choose.
Okay, so why would that be? I assume it's because Scam can punish Yawgmoth's mulligans, but Yawgmoth cannot really punish Scam's mulligans?
Yeah, in a way. Or in other words, it is just that Scam is a deck that's going to operate better on lower resources than Yawgmoth.
Yeah, so because you basically need just a couple of key cards, right? You just need Fury, let's say, Fury, red card, Undying, land.
Yeah,
That's 4.
yeah. And then, like, you have cards like Seasoned Pyromancer to refresh your hand, which are great if both players are low on cards, but are not so great if both players have plenty of cards, right?
So yeah, deciding on the keep on 6, Van der Beek keeping, Franco Bianchi keeping. So we're off to the races in game 2 of semifinals here in Bologna. Delighted Halfling and pass.
All right, let's go. What is Franco going to respond with? A fetch land.
Okay, so this could be maybe a Ragavan, could be immediately a removal spell on Halfling. Basic Swamp. Nice. So this could be maybe a Feign Death effect turn 1. This may be maybe some preparation for Bloodman.
Maybe Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, yeah. So yeah, multiple... yeah, okay, we've got just a Fatal Push, but again, it's off a basic Swamp. So I assume some Maguses and or Bloodmoons are in the deck.
It's possible, yeah. It's possible that that is the way that Franco decided to build his post-board deck, including some of those Blood Moon effects. Now we are hitting Van with a Van der Beek with a Thoughtseize.
Oh, that is an awkward hand, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an awkward mulligan to 6. It really relied on the mana drop surviving. Really,
Pretty tough there.
it's really important to do that.
If the Lighted Halfling survives, you could even court for 0 for Dryad Arbor, if need be, just to have another mana source. But in this case, Van der Beek is just probably hoping to hit land, 1 ring, and just try to get that to pull him ahead.
It doesn't seem like the Lawrence's Van der Beek's list even contains a Dryad Arbor.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
So
oh, another Thoughtseize. Take
that's
the
not
one.
very possible.
Double Court of Calling in hand. 2 lands in play. Yeah, difficult. And Grist was the top deck. That's not what you wanted to see.
Yeah, but also it's one of the it's kind of okay if you draw a land and if Franco has no proactive moves, then Greece
Like
is actually
that.
perfect.
Ah, okay. Orcish Bowmaster was picked up, so maybe we can see some counterplay. But there was no 3-drop from Bianchi, so what could be the hand? Just full of interaction?
Maybe interaction, maybe griefs and furies without undying malice effects, and since there was no reason to deploy them, we could see a grief being hardcast on the next turn with high likelihood, I believe.
So basically playing this deck as red-black rock?
Yes, yes. Playing it the fair way, just playing the grief elemental, grief fury as 4 and 5 mana cards, and they're still pretty okay at that cost.
Yeah, we're probably taking risk now, leaving the opponent with Court of Calling. Now, despite the fact that we've got 2 creatures, we cannot court for 1 to find a mana dog because we do not have triple green.
Yeah, with next turn we can court for 1, so in Lawrence's position, so that's pretty nice. The card is finally alive. Orcish Bowmasters serving us essentially a soul ring for Court of Calling.
And we drew a 3rd Court of Calling there. Wow, it cannot be good. And now we can see maybe it can land into Fury.
Lawrence loves to see a Black Cliff Cleaves instead of, Fetch, Crack, Swamp, Fury down your Bowmasters.
2 mana, terminate. Okay.
Terminate the Bowmasters.
Okay.
What's
Bosage.
that upkeep?
Okay, Bosage is fine. So you're probably looking for like Ignoble Hierarch maybe, or Delighted Halfling. And slowly but surely build something off of that. But yeah, the clock is on. But Franco actually keep passing the turn, so I assume whatever's found dies.
Yeah, that's why you would find a Young Wolf, I guess. This one does not die so easily and sticks for your future cards.
Okay, yeah, so let's take a look at Young Wolf here. It's one of those cards that has been, I think, the laughing stock of a card for Yawgmoth, because it's like, well, who plays in Modern a 1/1 Undying creature, unironically? But they very much do. And yeah, it's pretty strong here.
Lawrence very happy to have drawn that third green source to actually be able to card as Orcish Bowmasters. While it does act as a soul ring for card, it does exactly that, creates 2 colorless mana because the creatures are black, so they cannot fill the role of the creatures paying for the green symbol.
Okay, so now we're making Young Wolf bigger. Maybe there will be another Bowmasters. I guess, oh, it doesn't work actually. So okay, so we're just diminishing the capabilities of the subsequent Code of Calling.
Yeah.
And now, okay, untap, draw.
So it looks pretty rough for Lawrence.
Yeah, Yawgmoth was the draw. You can call it again for 1, but it pulls you ahead, like, at a glacial pace. And I think Franco has got around 2 cards in hand. So now we could see an attack for just 3, thanks to Menace. We could see an attack with everything just to push through damage, although that could be sketchy.
If the 1/1 creatures attack, then Young Wolf could technically block, maybe?
Okay, so we're declaring a block. We can Orcish Bowmaster it now, post blocks. Okay, Feign Death, okay. Feign Death, that's also a good way to do it. So 4 damage goes through, down to 10. Trigger. Now we've got both Undying and Undying on the stack.
True.
So now the active player's one goes on the stack first, then the non-active player goes on the stack.
Yeah, so the Young Wolf actually returns to the battlefield first, so
yeah,
it would be a viable target for the ping.
Yeah, it comes back now. Orcish Bowmasters, trigger, probably one to face, grow the army, pass the turn, Van de Beek at 9.
And I believe the Bowmaster enters the battlefield tapped with a +1/+1 counter on it. Yes.
Now you could like end step court for 1 again. Would you now go for a mana dog or again Young Wolf?
If you get a Young Wolf, you can assemble Yawgmoth +2 Young Wolves, which is maybe what you need to save yourself this game.
Okay. If you find the mana dog though, you can top deck with the One Ring.
Yes, so it's a little bit of a tough choice. A little bit of a tough choice here.
There are Bowmasters, but you at least get protection for 1 turn. And maybe from that point you can go back. because you can always kill Bowmasters with a Yawgmoth later. So yeah, so Young Wolf is a preparation for a land top deck.
It's still gonna be pretty rough because even if you top deck a land and play Yawgmoth, it has to be a black producing land too. Oh, that's a
That was
shield red.
Shieldred.
That would be powerful if it was castable.
So now we can court for 2. So we can, for example, so we have to probably declare some blockers, court for 2. We're alive. Let's assume Franco has nothing. But that doesn't look like nothing. Fury comes down and is trying to sweep the battlefield.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, and we'll probably declaring damage somehow, probably like a 2 and 2 or 3 and 1. Doesn't really matter, probably. So yeah, this comes back.
That means that Franco can just keep attacking, and I really don't see a way for Lawrence van der Beek to get back into this game.
Yeah, so you're attacking with everything. Franco is making the calculations. Just making sure he doesn't punt away this game where the advantage bar is just way to the left.
Probably has endurance in his mind, seeing 3 open mana. So making sure that he wants to attack with the orcs and the army. Doesn't want to crash into an endurance, but seems like he decides that there is no endurance there. So
yeah, so we're blocking Bowmasters, court for 1. So we might now go for the mana dog, like the lighted halfling to be able to play Shieldred or Yawgmoth. But the life total is low enough. Yeah, maybe actually you could find a 1-drop mana dog to be able to top deck the One Ring. I think that could be a way to at least try to stay alive and pull ahead.
I think you had to court for a wolf, just like Lawrence did, because next turn you need to use your young wolf to block the fury. And
Yeah, but if
you need to use your...
if you find the One Ring, you don't have to block the Fury yet.
Yeah, sure. That is assuming that he plays to a simpler out of drawing a black producing land that lets him play a shield red that he already has in hand.
Halfling was the draw. So that's the only card we can deploy here. So Halfling pass, Young Wolf. We have to actually double jump here, right? Young Wolf Fury, Halfling block the army token. Goes down to 1, so all the fetches are out. All the fastlands are out. Doesn't look great. But Van de Beek might as well take that one more draw step until we see... Oh, Twilight Mire!
That's too late now. You get to play shield red, but you're just gonna lose to the...
Pass.
To the all-out attack with every creature.
Yeah, just make them have it. Make them attack. Trigger. Lose to life. And Franco Bianchi will just say, I would like to turn my creatures sideways and get a handshake out of you. Thank you very much. Good game. Franco Bianchi, Ragnar Scam, going into the finals of LMS Bologna.
Yes, advancing to the finals.
And we're switching back to the other semifinals. Kowalczuk versus Kundegrabber, Yawgmoth versus Murktide. Murktide has a Murktide, very few lands. Thank you for 8. We will be updating both the score and the live totals. Kowalczuk top decks the One Ring, gets... Oh, and that does it. That was exciting. 20 seconds.
That was very swift.
Yeah.
It does seem like Kundegrabber advances to the finals of the LMS Bologna.
Wow, okay, that was fast. Okay, that was very, very fast. So if that's the case, we've got Yawgmoth losing in the semis. We've got Yawgmoth losing in the semis. Murktide versus Scam in the finals. So we're kind of back to the old modern.
It's a pretty classic matchup, I guess.
Yeah.
In the post MH2
world
era of modern. So yeah, certainly there is some interesting choices in the lists of both players. There is the new cards in Orcish Bowmasters. There is also a few main subtleties in the other deck list. So certainly stuff to look out for, and it's gonna be pretty exciting to see who's gonna take this tournament and win this beautiful trophy.
Yeah, beautiful trophy here waiting for the winner, but also prizes waiting for the winner.
Oh, of course, of course.
Over $5,000, 25 boxes, Lille qualification, flight voucher, accommodation at Lille. So just so much to play for. So yeah, I'm really excited to see. Now, if you were to bet on Ragnar Scam or Murktide, who would you bet for?
Traditionally, that matchup is understood to be favored by the Murktide side of the matchup. Expressive Iteration is just a great card, and it's a little bit scary and hard to assemble the Undying Malice synergies. Sometimes having to commit your grief, if you don't manage to do that on turn 1, having to commit your grief into 2 open mana when there is a possibility of a counter spell, that could be devastating, and you can have a hard time pulling that off. And from the Murktide side, oftentimes you can win with just card advantage from Iteration, as I mentioned, and also Murktide Regent, the card itself, is just very, very powerful. We see that Alberto has some copies of Terminate in the main deck, but is this gonna be enough? We'll see.
Yes, we shall see how this unfolds. The finals will be covered by Caffeine Lily and Harry MTG. We can thank you very much for tuning in. Skura, also known as Islands in Front, streamer, content creator, Canister. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in and see you in the finals.
It's gonna be exciting to see the finals.
And we are back. Hi, everybody. We are here in Bologna for the last game of today. We are in the final right now. Me and Harry will comment this game, and we have a little video for us for showing up which player are still in the game.
So this was our semifinals.
Exactly.
2 players were eliminated. And now we have Murktide versus Rakdos Scam here to finish off the event. Which non-One Ring deck is going to take down the tournament?
Exactly. Finally, in the final, we have no rings.
No rings. There were over 700 copies of the ring, taking up over 60% of the metagame. Day 1.
Yeah.
Over 60% of the metagame, day 2, and 50% of our top 8. But to finish off the day, playing for that trophy, we have 0 copies of the ring in the finals. This is going to be Murktide on the play, as it is the 7th versus 8th seed.
Exactly.
We're going to have a fetch shock here.
It's a little bit unexpected to see no rings in the final because of we have so many day 1 and day 2.
Yeah, the ring is definitely a powerful card, but I think that it should also be respected that there are many powerful decks in the format that don't need it.
Exactly.
And we saw that throughout the day.
Yeah.
But that's a Dragon Rage Chandler with no Mishra's Bauble, it seems. We're just passing over to the Rakdos Scam player.
So, chat, who are you rooting for? Who do you think will win this event? And meanwhile, Land, Shockland, and Grief.
Okay. Do we have a scam card? That is a subtlety, but no blue card to go alongside it. And multiple lightning bolts. So if you have a scam here, what are you looking to take? You could just take both lightning bolts.
And
yeah, I don't hate it. Put the pressure on.
Yep.
Leaving with a subtlety, Seasoned Pyromancer, and you have to find the 3rd land. Not being able to surveil with Dragon Rage Chandler now. But that's a Scalding Tarn off the top. So this Seasoned Pyromancer can come down turn 3.
And pass. Searching for a land. And also we can tell you that after this game, this match, you will have available the deck list on MTG Melee. But of course they already have available for each other.
That's a Doughty Voidwalker.
Oh, yeah.
In response, we're going to fetch with Scalding Tarn, so that does go to the graveyard instead of exile. Then once that Doughty hits the table, we're not going to be able to put anything into the graveyard until it's removed.
And untap everything. Third land.
Ooh, and I think we've drawn a lot of lands as the Murktide player because we know about the Ottawara in hand. So the hand is just Subtlety Ottawara, I believe. Yeah, and those go into exile. Looking for something good off the top. We still do get an Elemental because it checks that a non-land has been discarded from the Pyro. Doesn't matter that it went to exile. And for those wondering about looking at these players' deck lists, this was a closed deck list event. Of course, the top 8 was open deck list, but we will be releasing them alongside all the other deck lists after the tournament is finished. If you want to get access to that, don't forget to follow the Legacy European Tour Twitter, as the social media manager will be handling making the deck list public, not the casters.
Yeah, exactly. Like with everything, double block on the Grief. both the Pyromancer and the Elemental. And in response, let's see what Franco is doing. Oh, removing the Elemental, so just the Pyromancer going to jump block at this. And down to 9.
Yeah, the clock is on.
Yeah.
We've managed to get a Murktide. It's not going to be a big one, though. There was only 2 bolts, I believe. Now, that is in a separate exile, because one exile is from the Dalthy, one's from the Murktide. It's only going to be a 5/5 flyer, easily manageable. We have multiple copies of Terminate in the Scam deck to deal with this card.
Finding out the land. Still at 15 life points, so right now. And untapping everything, and let's see. What is the plan for Franco? His opponent is tapped out, so
One thing that's nice about the Dalthy is it can be blocked. So you have to decide what you want to do, whether we want to use Seasoned Pyromancer. I probably would get the cards flowing, get rid of that Blood Moon that has no use to you, and just try and find some way to remove this Dragon Rage Channeler, because then the Grief can also hit in too, putting them at 2-turn clock. I mean, just here attacking with the Dalthy as well, it makes it so difficult for Murktide to even attack. You're just put in blocking mode. Oh, and we're just going to attack anyways.
double block. The first one.
Oh, and we've got Feign Death to scam the Grief again. So we're going to... This technically removes the Dragon Rage Channeler and also discards another card. Dealing 3 damage because of the Dalthy, and now with our Murktide player empty-handed, they definitely need something insane off the top, like an Expressive Iteration, but with
And
nothing,
no.
that is going to be game 1 of our
Directly.
finals already done. Scamming game 1. Are they going to do it in game 2? Who knows? But we're going to move on to boarding.
And yeah, we can check at their sideboard.
For Is It Murktide to try and get back games 2 and 3, you're looking at more value cards. You want more copies of Seasoned Pyromancer. Dress Down is decent. A lot of the elementals like Fury, Grief, when they're cast for value in the later turns, you can get them with Dress Down. Other things, you could potentially want copies of Force of Negation, but it's hard to want that because it's card disadvantage, so I wouldn't expect it. So I would just expect card advantage coming in for the Murktide player. For Rakdos Scam, what have we got access to? Shieldred, great threat. We just want good big threats. Nihil Spellbomb exiles the graveyard plus draws us cards. Turak makes them discard cards, also put counters on it. You could argue Engineered Explosives, but I'm not too sure about that. Fable the Marebreaker, anything that draws cards in the sideboard is coming in, so I'm going to expect 6 to 7 cards from Scam, and only 4 to 5 from Murktide. But while our players are boarding and looking at the deck list, I just have to remind you all, this tournament was free to watch here on Twitch. Legacy, Out of Pocket, wants to host these events on Twitch for you to watch. You know what's the best way to support this stream for free? Is clicking that follow button. All Legacy wants to see is that the stream grow. If you help the stream grow, then you'll see more events like these in the future, bringing us casters back here to cast it for you. So if we've given you 10 minutes of entertainment, please take the 10 seconds to click the follow.
And you know that right now is exactly 1 year from the first event of the Legacy European Tour. And
yep. And for people telling me that Murktide's going to bring in Hearse or other cards, they don't have it in the sideboard. I'm genuinely reading only the cards that realistically you'd bring in. They're like, I don't think this Murktide player is going to bring in any copies of Stern Scolding. That's not good. Engineered Explosives also not great. Copies of Blood Moon, definitely not. Flusterstorm, no. Like, so many cards that don't work in this matchup. Trust me, I've listed off all the cards that are relevant. If you want to see these deck lists and do your own sideboarding yourself, it will be released on the Legacy European Tour Twitter in a couple hours. Stern Scolding is great? Really? Counter target creature with power toughness 2 or less. So it counters Seasoned Pyromancer and Ragavan? Oh, and it counters Dalthy because it's power toughness.
You also counter the Archive.
Sure. Okay, Stern Scolding comes in. I'm sorry, chat. I'm not a perfect commentator, okay?
Let's see if they decide to if they can find the perfect first hand or not. And let's see. Just waiting for them to start. Meanwhile, both of them are already qualified for Lille, and they both have the flight voucher reached.
I'm ready for Stern Scolding to win the match, actually.
Let's see.
Okay, we're going to have Is It Murktide on the play, mulligan to 6.
Yep.
What are we going to have?
Shockland.
That's going to be a Shock Steven saying go, representing that strong Stern Scolding here as well as removal spells.
And
do we have a grief?
Let's see.
That's a
No,
Ragavan.
And
Oh.
consider.
I saw one blue spell and I was panicking a bit. That's a consider. Trying to control our draw steps here, putting a counterspell to the bin. Probably implying that they're either flooded on counters or they need lands.
Yeah. Let's see if they can find it on an island. So now he has 2 mana open. Franco can start attacking with the Ragavan. And
That's a subtlety.
making the first treasure.
3 mana here. We're looking to cast a Fable, cast a Seasoned Pyromancer. Even a Dalthy is good. You could probably put the Murktide player on counterspell, because if you're going to mill one with Consider, either you're really digging for lands or you already have a counterspell and you're looking for a removal spell for the monkey or something.
And 1 mana.
It's a spell bomb.
Yep.
Putting respect on Murktide's held up mana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Murktide player just wants to use it. Counterspell, going to put that spell bomb to the graveyard and keep Murktide's graveyard intact.
But now he still has 2 mana open and he can try to do something. This situation. And let's see. And we have a Grief Scum. Ooh. Double expressive iteration. 1 consider.
Okay. So there's no third land. Murktide is definitely a problem, because if you, let's say you take expressive iteration here, and they top deck a fetch land,
Yeah.
then Murktide comes down. So obviously, if you have Terminate, then you won't be afraid of the Murktide. So it's actually a really tough choice, because any spell you take other than Murktide, it really speeds up that Murktide getting to the table. So it's actually dependent on the Rakdos Scam player's hand and what removal they have access to. Also, if we are scamming the grief here, and you go for like iteration, you still have the same problem. You need to have that removal spell for the Murktide.
Yeah. A lot of thinking. First iteration and second scam.
Okay. I'm guessing if you took the first iteration, you're going to take the second one. But we're thinking about it. No, we're
No.
going to go with the Murktide. Don't have a good removal spell in hand, clearly.
So leave him with an iteration and then consider.
So we're going to let this Murktide player get some value. We do need to deal with this Ragavan as well as this Grief. Like, they're both putting different types of clocks on. Ragavan giving a mana advantage to scam is a problem, as well as making it is easy to cast cards off the top of the Murktide player's library, but just passing back. Maybe top decked counterspell, looking to hold up Consider on the end step as well as a counterspell. What's this? Oh, a Cast and Fire kills the Ragavan.
After dealing only with the grief right now.
But still takes damage from the grief, yep.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Down to 14. And... oh no, pass, okay.
So we've got time to iteration.
Yeah.
We need lands, and we definitely need a removal spell. But the problem is let's say you find a Lightning Bolt or an Unholy Heat, you have the dilemma of do they have another scam card?
Yeah.
But I think we're falling so far behind now where you just can't play around another scam. You can definitely do it on the upkeep or in combat. Yeah, not having a removal spell for the grief here is going to get more and more rough.
Let's see. Now we have 2 mana plus a treasure, so and we have a Ragavan. And
Dragon Rage Chandler. Like I was saying, you're going to start flipping. When you flip spells, it's a good chance you can cast it, especially when you start stacking up treasures.
Yep.
So I think it was shortcut here. We didn't add a treasure because we used it to cast the Dragon Rage Chandler.
And let's see if there is any other interaction, or if he can dash his Ragavan back in hand, and it was perfectly fine for him. So now down to 5. Our Murktide player is in a very bad spot. We can see a Consider right now.
Yeah, we just need removal spells. That's it.
Yep.
Or you could try and make a board of Channelers and Murktides to try and double block. But it's getting more and more rough.
Let's see. I don't know. Right now it's very difficult for him, so I don't know what he can do, but we cannot see his hand, so maybe there is something that we don't know that could still do something in this situation. Ottawa is a land.
Plays Ottawara and passes. Okay,
Portland.
we don't have Delirium with Chandler.
Yeah, exactly.
So we could start casting spells to try and get Delirium, but it's definitely difficult.
Finding the land. Let's see if he can end in this situation. But now his opponent have 4 mana open, so we can assume that probably he has something useful in hand. And 2 mana dashing again, his Ragavan. But there is a bolt on the Griff.
Okay.
And
A dress down. So that's going to remove Dragon Rage Chandler as well as Ragavan from having haste. So we're only going to be attacking for 1.
down to 4 in this situation. Still need to find a solution for both of them.
Needs a Murktide, needs a removal spell, but
Yeah.
just passing, we're still going to have to deal with this Chandler.
He still has mana open. He's completely open. He has 2 cards in hand, I think. 2 mana. Let's see if he dash again. Dash again the Ragavan.
Ooh, that's a good card. Subtlety. Going to put this Ragavan on top end, attempt to block that Dragon Rage Chandler to trade. Because don't forget, with Delirium, it has to attack.
Yeah. And on the top. we
Oh,
have
but that's an
Fury.
Evoked Fury. Put that Solitude to the graveyard, clear the pathway for the 3/3. And if the
And we're
Murktide player
attacking.
doesn't have a removal spell or can't find a Murktide,
Yeah, now it's very difficult for him. Another consider. He's trying again to find something that can be useful.
Wow.
And it's a GG.
that's an extension from the hand, and Rakdos taking down the tournament. Wasn't it that much of a close finals, but definitely an interesting matchup to see.
Totally agree. And it was so good for our winner to win that. So now we have a winner. And this one, I think, it was one of the first big tournaments, big modern tournaments after the release of Lord of the Rings. So it's a new meta.
Yes. Interesting to see how decks have changed. The Bowmaster definitely for Franco was an MVP throughout the whole day. Just
Yeah.
honestly, a nice event. But we actually are going to have an interview now
Yeah, exactly.
with Franco. So we're going to get him into the booth.
We are going to bring him here. And we are going to... So if you have any questions that we can ask to the winner, please chat, let us know so I can ask him. And let's see. You will have all the deck list available after this tournament. So in few hours, you can find everything on MTG Melee, but also you can find that on the socials from Legacy European Tour. So again, be sure to follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, because they will update everything with the links. So now we are just waiting for him. And after that, we will say hi to you. But then again, if you have anything that we can ask him, I don't know if we can bring the winner here, because of course, of course, he's with his friend cheering up and everybody is so happy about it. This was a huge, huge win for him. So now, okay. So they told me that he speaks a little bit of English. So, vieni. So I will translate everything. Luckily, I'm Italian, so sono italiana, so I can translate. Metti le cuffie quando poi puoi. So if you have any question, chat, let us know. First of all, congratulations. It was a huge win, because now this one was for one of the first big modern event after the releasing of the ring, and you have no one ring in your deck.
No. No.
How was it? Are you happy right now?
Very happy for this moment, because I'm testing poco
You
test.
just a little?
Yes, and I'm very happy.
Okay. How did you choose your deck for this kind of event and what did you expect in this situation? Come l'hai scelto e che cosa ti aspettavi di trovare contro?
I, allora, ho sempre giocato, I play sempre, ho
preoccupare,
sempre
però.
giocato Crashing Footfalls,
Ok?
però vedendo comunque le carte nuove che sono uscite e tutto, ho preferito cambiare con un midrange che comunque è molto... Devi stare in una buona giornata per giocarlo, devo dire la verità. È molto...
So
e
he always played, can you remember me, che cosa giocavi?
Crashing Footfalls.
Crashing football, but he decided with the new meta to switching to something that, yeah, of course, he knows that he have to be in a good day for playing this kind of deck, but this was a huge day. È stata una bellissima giornata per te.
Favolosa.
Direi.
Favolosa, favolosa.
So now
favolosa.
you will be in Lille with
Yes.
this. And are you ready for Pioneer?
No, ancora no. For test.
Yeah, you have sometimes. Hai
sì.
abbastanza tempo.
Sì, ho abbastanza tempo e speriamo bene, dai.
Yeah.
Speriamo bene. Dai, speriamo come oggi.
Sì,
Dai, diciamo le
decisamente.
cose.
So, again, thank you a lot for being here and congratulations. So, you will have... I don't want to broke this.
Thank
This
you.
is your...
Come Rafa Nadal.
This one is amazing. Thank you very much for this interview and have a nice day. Go and have fun with your friends. Fatti una bella cena, divertiti.
Grazie. Thank you.
And now I will call back my colleagues for this event because now, sì, grazie mille, puoi andare tranquillo. Don't worry. And we will call back all my colleagues so we can say thanks to everybody. And we will have Harry back, Philip, Canister, everybody, and me, Lily. We are all here for you.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys for this weekend, but we've got to thank, first off, we've got to thank Wizards of the Coast for helping us actually host GPs in Europe still, Legacy for actually hosting it. All the judges have been insane. You don't even know how much stress the head judges had, monitoring everything in Twitch chat, making sure it's cool in the coverage area, making sure we know the judge calls. What next? We've got to thank the sponsors, Ultimate Guard, MTG Melee, and also the people who actually do everything. Foxhound Factory, the reason why this stream works, you don't even understand how many cameras, all the life totals, all of the language barriers that we overcome. Honestly, it's insane how hard it is to run this stream, but we want to thank everyone and also the casters. Anything you guys want to say?
Yeah, it's been great. It was super fun.
Yes.
Great job, guys.
I think
Great job to everyone.
we got to end this stream with, this was a free thing to watch. You know what's free is clicking that follow button. We wouldn't be here without you, so click that follow button so Legacy can keep hosting these live streams. And I guess that's going to be us done for today and this weekend.
Cheers.